Hey guys, it's Mr. Rick, aka Pickle Rick to some of you. I hope you're doing well. I really miss Wednesday nights with you guys, and I hope that we can get back there soon. Um, but what we're going to do is a quick devotion. I got one verse for you, and then Miss Megan helped me out with an arts and crafts activity that is themed along with our verse. And so we're super thankful for her because she is creative and I am not. So we're going to jump into our verse. It is Psalms 91, verse 1. And we're going to read it and then we'll break it down. So Psalms 91, verse 1 reads, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." So let's talk about this. Okay, so when it says dwells, what does that mean? So I think about my house, where I dwell, where I live. Okay, I don't live here some of the time, I live here all of the time. I don't stay here some nights, I stay here every night. So he who dwells, he who lives in the shelter of the Most High will abide. Well, let's talk about abide in this verse. So to abide in this sense means you will constantly be. Not sometimes. It's very similar to dwells, but dwells is talking about a place, being in that place, and then abide in this sense means to constantly be. So we'll constantly be in the shadow of the Almighty. And then when it says to in the shadow, think about when you're outside, the shadow, wherever you're at, if the sun is behind you, the shadow is going to be in front of you, right? So if I move from one spot to the next, my shadow is going to move, right? It's not going to be where I used to be. It's going to be where I am right now. So it says, will abide, will constantly be in the shadow, meaning that wherever you're at, God will be there. And his shelter will protect you. So no matter what's going on in the world, or it could be any situation, any circumstance. Think about what's going on right now throughout the world with this pandemic. You know, no matter what, if you're in relationship with God, nothing is going to separate you from that. But He's always going to be there. In the good times, in the bad times. And I know that right now you might be confused. I know I'm confused all the time with what's going on. You might be worried, you might be scared. But what I know, what I'm not scared about and what I'm not worried about is where's God? Because I'm in relationship with God. He's going to be right there with me. So that brings me a lot of comfort in some very uncomfortable times. So that's what I have for you. I hope you enjoy what Miss Megan's put together. And like I said before, I really miss you guys. I hope you're doing well, and I can't wait to be back with y'all on Wednesday nights. And I hope to see you soon. I'm praying for you guys. I love y'all. Y'all take care. Bye.
Hey guys, I've got a neat little activity for you today to help you remember the Bible verse that Mr. Rick talked about. And if you'll remember, the Bible verse talked about shadows and how we can abide in the Almighty God's shadow. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to be tracing some shadows. So all you need for this activity is any toys you have around the house, or anything really. It doesn't have to be a toy. You need a sheet of paper and then something you can trace the shadow with. And you'll do this outside. It may be better to do outside later in the day, or if you can't go outside, you can do it inside with a lamp. So here's all you're going to do. You're going to set up your toy how you want it. I'm using Rex here. You're going to put your paper down and you're going to find the shadow that you want. So I'm going to trace his shadow here and demonstrate it. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you what I thought was so cool about this Bible verse. And that is the fact that we can abide, or we can rest in his shadow, in God's shadow. And something neat that I kind of thought about earlier today is when you make a shadow, you're right there next to the shadow. Like, for example, Rex, I'm tracing his shadow right now, and Rex is right there. So in order to have a shadow, the thing making the shadow has to be close by. So when we are resting and abiding in the Almighty God's shadow, that doesn't mean that He's far off. That means that He's right there next to us making that shadow. So it's pretty neat to think about that we're not just sitting under some random shade. It's not just keeping us cool, but Almighty God is right there with us. And He's the one there protecting us. Alright, so let's get all these dinosaur teeth. This is kind of tricky. Ooh. You have to be really careful, because if you bump your toy or your model, it changes the shadow. Let's see if I can draw left-handed. Boom, I'm done. All right, so there is my shadow tracing of Rex the dinosaur. So you could color this now, you could do whatever you want. It might be a good idea to even write the Bible verse on the top. You could hang it up in your room, so that way you always remember that as long as you are dwelling with Christ and living with Christ, you can rest in His shadow safely.